I'ma get mine, just a matter of time.
Look at my shine with the blow. This is my time with it though. This is my time to be way at the top. Me and my guys gon' pay out the block. I don't look like boss. Time's right, and I know the sea is walking in a long light. Promise you gon' wanna watch like a sci-fi. My guys are high risers, high time. Might drown if you come to my side. I pledge allegiance for lifetime. My squad connected like Wi-Fi. We grind and you see the highlights. This my life. It ain't a game now. Me and you, we ain't the same now. Lions coming out to play now. Opposition out the way now. Out of the way. You wasn't invited. Say you come to play. I dare you to try it. You don't wanna try me. Then step up to my team. Yeah, out of the way. Yeah, yeah. Out of the way. Yeah, yeah. Out of the way. Game now, me and you, we ain't the same now. Lions coming out to play now. Opposition out the way now. Out of the way, you wasn't invited. Say you come to play. I dare you to try it. You don't wanna try me. Then step up to my team. Yeah, out of the way. Yeah, yeah. Out of the way. Yeah, yeah. Out of the way.
Talladega. The name says it all. Tonight, 8 drivers will lock themselves in at a chance for immortality. Anywhere else, you might be safe. But this is no ordinary oval, where the cars are close and the racing is even closer. As the checkered flag flies, anything can happen. The road to $300,000 has reached the final week of regular season competition, where tonight from the virtual Talladega Superspeedway, we say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to round 16 of the 2020 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. As always, we're happy that you're joining us and strapped into the virtual seat here on the iRacing Esports Network and streaming live at eNASCAR.com. As always, my name is Evan Pasoko. Happy to be joined by Steve Letarte in the broadcast booth once more. And Steve, we talked a lot about this race last time out at Las Vegas. 15 weeks down, only one race left to go until we know the 8 drivers will fight for the championship here in 2020.
Well, Evan, I think you just covered the storyline. They've had 15 weeks to not depend on Talladega. 15 weeks to gain enough points to guarantee a seat at the table when the playoffs start. 5 drivers have done that. They've locked themselves in, but 3 others still looking for an opportunity. And now they have a mission to try to find enough points, to try to find that opportunity at the most hectic racetrack we go to, Talladega Superspeedway.
So those 5 drivers you mentioned are the only ones who aren't sweating right now, and there they are. Keegan Leahy, Bobby Zalenski, Nick Ottinger, Michael Conti, and Garrett Lowe, 1st through 5th in the points, are locked in. They will fight for the championship beginning in 2 weeks' time for the round of 8 opener at the Charlotte Motor Speedway ROVAL. But as we look over to the rest of the points, there is a lot of uncertainty, and there would be, of course, if it was any given racetrack ending the regular season. But we saw it in the NASCAR Cup Series, Daytona as a regular season finale. Steve, for us, it is Talladega, where we will try to find out who slots in to positions number 6, 7, and 8. So the drivers in red, those are the 5 we checked in with. They're good, but we're focusing on the drivers in blue. It's everybody Ryan Luza plus 29 through Chris Shearburn minus 40. 6th through 13th. Those are the drivers mathematically with a chance of either moving up above the cut line or falling out.
I love the colors. The colors are going to help me. You know, I don't need math. I don't need challenges. I like to just see who's in, who's out all day long as we watch scoring. We'll see those colors change. You mentioned it. He's the most comfortable clamping as well. But when I look at Ray Alfalla, he can't feel good about 15 points. Jimmy Mullis and everyone below him, Brad Davies, Herburn, that's a lot of experience, and they're going to be aggressive. There's no reason not at this point with what's on test for tonight. They have to go find those points.
And you could lose 15 spots in a lap given choosing the wrong lane here at Talladega. That's why it makes such a thrilling place for the last race of the regular season. There's also some drivers right-hand side of your screen in purple. Those drivers mathematically eliminated from playoff contention. Their focus is going to turn to staying into the top 20 to avoid relegation, but we'll have plenty more time to talk about that as this season carries on. Well, these guys are getting set to go at it with 37 cars on track at one time here from Talladega, but before we let them do that, let's ride with Nick Ottinger, Steve, with this week's iRacing Lap Guide as he takes us for a solo spin around Talladega.
Yeah, Talladega just looks so simple by itself, but it's anything but. You notice the start-finish line. There it is. Point of conversation way down past the trial, but we will definitely want to watch that on that final lap. And here it is. What makes Talladega so famous. 33 degrees of banking and so wide. Daytona, 3 wide is a squeeze. Talladega, 3 wide is straightforward. We'll see 4 wide at times.
Yeah, we saw them hold 3 wide consistently in that Daytona season opener, and you see with that nose cam on board for Ottinger here riding the bottom, it is the shortest way around this racetrack, but that outside line, even though you're going to give up a little bit into the corner, you'll use all that banking that's nearly 3-4 stories high to get a big run here as things head down to the tri-oval, which kind of chokes things up as well.
It choked it up. You have to be very careful. This bottom lane of the tri-oval, it may not look like it has less banking, but it really does. It's easy to lose control of your car on that bottom lane.
Well, that was a ride around Talladega solo with Nick Ottinger. Steve, and I'll hand it right back to you because you're chatting with him as he gets set to do battle.
Yeah, Nick, first of all, congratulations on making the playoffs. It's all because of consistency. So impressive. A bunch of third-place finishes. I guess my question is, what's your approach heading into Talladega knowing playoffs are around the corner, but you're locked in?
We still show up with one mission. I mean, that's the win. One goal, one mission is the win. What we do here at Byron Esports is we go to the next race and just do our best for that race, and that's worked for us all this year. I mean, like you said, we got a string of good third place finishes, and I mean, that's just all you can ask for going into playoffs, and especially a pressure race like this. I mean, you don't want to be in that pressure situation like some of these guys are, and especially such a tough track to predict and everything.
All right, so the question is, the goal is win. What's the position? When we see the white flag, perfect position, leader, second, third, defending, attacking, where do you want to be on that final lap?
Last year, I mean, it was good attacking and being in like the second guy on the bottom. I mean, it's so hard. I'd honestly just like to be in a position in the tri-oval, regardless where I am. So I mean, if that's blocking whatever momentum is behind me, I'll take it. But I mean, it's so hard to predict. I don't think you really can judge which lane you're really going to be in until the last lap.
Hey, listen, your owner won final regular season race at Daytona that I got to cover. Can you do it? Can you bring this William Byron eSport team to victory lane on this final regular season race?
I think so, man. I mean, we strive to win every race, and we've got one at Dover this year, but I've had a lot of good fortune at plate races the last 2 years, I would say, and that's a preparation for our William Byron Esports team, and just everyone back at just our team putting all that effort in and making sure we're positioning ourselves in the best spot. And a lot of that credit goes to Matt Holden, just putting us in a good strategy and getting us out front in front of pit stops.
Well, man, good luck. Congratulations on making the playoffs. We're going to see in position on the final lap through the tri-oval. I think that's a great plan. Good luck tonight.
Thank you, man.
Evan, I like that plan. You got to be in it, rolling on that last lap. Anybody rolling on that last lap has a chance here at Talladega.
They've all got a game plan coming into this race. Once it gets underway, it's about adapting and figuring out how to make it work as this race goes on. But the practice session and now qualified have both drawn to a close, so let's do it. Let's go trackside, turn up the music, and take a look at our Coca-Cola starting grid for round 16. For the third time in his career, Christian Challoner is on pole position for this one by 2/1000ths of a second. Atop Jimmy Mullis, who starts P2, Corey Vincent, Michael Conti back on row 2, with Jake Nichols and Zach Novak, your top 6, Steve.
You see Logan Clampett, row 4. Nick Ottinger, we just spoke to him in row 5. Brad Davies, Chris Sherburne, 2 of those drivers currently outside, but have a chance to move inside for the playoffs.
And some big bubble names. ROVAL, the last driver above the cut line. He'll be on the outside of row number 8 for this one, alongside the Team Dillon Esports entry of Michael Gast. And Bobby Zelensky starting from 20th. He had been on pole for both Superspeedway races this year, not tonight.
Yeah, Garrett Lowe back in row 12. You mentioned it, 37 cars. It's a deep field. Casey Curran back in row 15 with his teammate Keegan Leahy on the inside. We'll see what those DHR teams cars do from the back, but that's the beauty of Talladega. Ryan Luza, Phil Diaz, not a single name. It makes no difference where you start. Some tracks, starting position makes a big difference. Here at Talladega, you'll have more than enough opportunity.
And you can see as they're lined up and ready to fight for the 16th time in 2020. Steve, walk us through tonight's race as we take a look at our ASUS race analysis.
Well, it's white-knuckled racing for 250 miles, 94 laps around the high banks, 32 to 35 laps on fuel, 4 sets of tires. and pit road speed 55 miles per hour. You got to watch that speed. We'll probably see some green flag pit stops.
One thing that you hear a lot when we go to Daytona, drivers talking about grip. We look at the weather conditions for this race as it is a dynamic sky in the iRacing service. 82 degrees Fahrenheit, a little bit of a wind. Track temp, though, much higher than that at 107. We're not really worried about the tire wear more so, but those temps could mean that guys locked up on each other are going to have to deal with some overheating as this race goes on. That's going to be the key that I think we need to keep an eye on if these guys stay bunched together for the entirety. And as they go white knuckle racing, as you said, we'll have several onboard angles to take with these drivers as this race goes on. We'll be checking in with them throughout tonight's contest for this Talladega 250. From the front of the field to the back, everybody has an opportunity to go for the win. But again, we'll remind everybody at home, Steve, one more time, there is no win and you're in this series. It is all about points tonight.
No win and you're in. There's no stage breaks. There's no breaks, perhaps at all. We've seen these guys go clean at the super speedways. Very few back at the beginning of the year. Only a handful of cautions when they visited Daytona again. So these guys are going to have to try to manage that. How do you attack? How do you put yourself in good position? Justin.
Yes, indeed, and believe it or not, the pole sitter for tonight felt a bit unconfident about his qualifying attempt, to the point where in turn, he had headwind at both ends of the straightaways that held him up on speed. In fact, he was having a giggle fit after how well he did in qualifying. He feels like he wants to be able to start on the pole to lead some laps rather tonight, and feels like this is going to be a race where the middle line could be dominant. Keep an eye on that car as he's looking to lead some laps early.
Well, that's the JTG Doherty Racing driver up at the front of the field, Steve. I know we've joked maybe a little bit of a rivalry with Letarte Esports and Burton Kligerman, but another NBC colleague of yours with a team associated in this. And check this out, the virtual drone cam, another cool angle we'll be taking in tonight.
Oh, I love it. This is the place I like to see above the pack. It looks so calm and so peaceful right now. And Justin had a great report about qualifying. It made me smile. That is how qualifying has gone every time I've gone to Talladega. You think you're going to be good, you're bad. You think you're going to be bad, you're good. It is the great equalizer every time you come.
As we take a look at all these driver angles, we are ready to go racing here tonight from the Talladega Superspeedway. Doesn't matter where you start. All that matters is where you finish. We're talking about the race tonight. We're also talking about the entirety of the regular season that comes to a close right now. As always, though, happy that you're spending your Tuesday night with us on the iRacing Esports Network and streaming live at eNASCAR.com. For the final time on the regular season, we say let's go racing from Talladega. No real advantage inside or out, still too wide through the field, but a challenge for the race lead comes up front as Mullis was getting to push with Challenger. Now no advantage. We are stuck probably tighter right now under green, Steve, than we were pacing at a turn number 4. No separation throughout the field as Mullis on the outside looks to lead lap number 1.
Very organized, very patient front to back. You see much more condensed front bumpers to rear bumpers on that front row. Mullis on the outside, the 37 on the inside. A lot of patience at this point. There's no reason to go 3 wide. I think at this point, the nerves are still there. The drivers are settling in.
Well, we were joking pre-race, the difference between the pros in the sim world, these drivers, and us on the sim. We were talking about the width, how much more room there is here at Talladega than there is at Daytona as we rocket down the Alabama Gangpack straightaway. Joking how they were 3 wide all race long at Daytona, and for them, I mean, that was just riding. That was calm. If I was 2-3 wide, I'd be white-knuckled all the way around. So this is these guys just trying to get acclimated, trying to settle in. You can see 6 cars on the bottom and broken away for the rest of the cars behind. I was expecting maybe some drivers to abandon ship up top early, but it seems like there are more numbers high side as we take the gyro cam on board with Logan Clement.
Shows you just how much banking is here at Talladega. And as we ride on board with Logan, we look at that dash. You mentioned it in the pace laps, but I don't think we can talk about it enough. No, this is virtual Talladega, but overheating of the engine is a real problem in real life, and it's a real problem in virtual racing. That's one of the toughest issues I have at Talladega. You mentioned it. I'm sweaty, palm, white knuckled, just trying to maintain my lane. I ignore my gauges. These drivers won't be able to do it. As now we see a 3-wide move as the 16 goes to the top.
Yeah, Chris Overland wants to spearhead that, and he's not on his own. Bobby Zalenski joins him. I mentioned that Zalenski had started on pole for both of the Super Speedway races this season entering tonight. He's also the most recent Super Speedway winner, having won at Daytona just 3 races ago. But it's just those two. They're going to be able to hang and probably get to a top 10, maybe the brink of a top 5 spot. I just don't know if they can go all the way on their own. And here comes Conti, the 8-car. Dive to the outside to make it a trio.
I love that he's going to have a little bit of help. I think that's the move. You got to get up and block it. You got to make a decision. Great move by Conti. If you're going to block the top lane, be decisive. Get out front. That's what he did. Now we're 3 wide for the lead. Make that 4 wide.
Oh, dirty move. Conti went up to try to take advantage of that 3rd lane, and Chris Overland said thanks, but no thanks. Cut to his inside, and now the 8-car gonna drop like an anchor. He was fine leading the kind of 2nd car in line on the outside. Instead, he tried to make an aggressive move. In the blink of an eye, Conti falls outside of the top 10, and now it's Overland leading the outside, but a big head of steam. That's the number 90 of Zach Novak. In the middle, both lanes better than the bottom. Look at Clampett to the inside, sneaking underneath him as he wants to go to the race lead.
Yeah, and a happy team owner myself as we see the 36 of Shearburn and the 4 of Perez nose to tail. Good Letard Esport teamwork. Now we're on board with Shearburn, seeing what he has in the middle. Those cars moving around make me nervous, yet these guys are so calm.
Yeah, team alliances is going to be a big thing. It's huge any given week in this series. Again, if you're not familiar, this is an open setup series. So from team to team, unlike in real life, there's no equipment difference. In iRacing, they're all using the same laser scan of a NASCAR Cup Series car. So it comes down to the setups to differentiate one team from another. And a lot of drivers work together on any given week, Steve. But especially here at Talladega, having that teammate support to be able to be on the radio with, to communicate with, even make alliances with some of the other drivers in other teams is more important here than it is anywhere else.
More important under green, very important when pit stops come to make sure you're not pitting alone. There's that balance. I've been in those meetings with Dale Earnhardt Jr., Jeff Gordon, when the owners try to tell you, listen, we want you to work together, but you also can't hurt yourself. You put drivers in really tough situations when you kind of mandate what they have to do. So I think they're going to have to want to do it. And that's what we see right here as the 36 of Shearburn climbs up. He's now leading that outside lane. Perez stuck in the middle, nowhere to go. We'll see if the 36 can make a move and challenge.
Yeah, so the 4 stays 4th in line in the middle. That was good enough for 11th position the last time by. And you can see it is just those 3 cars, Shearburn, Overland, and Zalenski up high. They're pushing, though, all the way down the straightaway, 205 miles an hour into turn number 3. The car's up on the outside line. Conti wants to get in there as well. And as we go on board with Dylan Duval, the driver to Halifax, Nova Scotia, he's back a little bit in that middle lane. It looks scary now, and it is. Somebody pushes up a foot or two, it could mean calamity. For these drivers, not even breaking a sweat, I'm sure. We're only 7 laps into 94, a long way still to go.
Yeah, Dylan looking for a little bit of luck at these Super Speedways. 39th at Daytona, the first race of the year. And outside the top 20 when we return to the high banks. Looking for a little bit better than that here today at Talladega.
You can see Logan Clampett up at the front of the field. He's kind of got a decision. All 3 lanes behind him are pretty much equal with each other. Mullis behind him, Novak still leading the middle, Shearburn leading the outside. He kind of had a pick of the litter on which lane he wanted to try to slow down that time down the back straightaway. Opted to go to the inside. That's going to pull Mullis. It's going to pull your pole center Challenger with. The inside gets a small advantage. It'll be rinse, wash, and repeat, but look it off at the back of the 99. Mullis, with no intentions of hanging back, he goes to the outside. Now he's hooked up with his Richmond Raceway Esports teammate Novak to push the 46 car to the race lead. Mullis, one of those drivers talking about points that needs a lot, needs some luck to get into the postseason here tonight. That's a bonus point in the back pocket, Justin.
Yes, indeed. And keep in mind, with all this battling, one of the main talking points over the radios from all organizations is how to manage the temps on the cars, because there's the potential of overheating. Some teams are already talking about trying to adjust how much tape is on their car for about some drivers from 30% up to as high as 35% to determine how fast they can go in the pack, how comfortable they can be as the lead car, and for some, how well they can push tonight. That balance is going to be a discussion point throughout the night, as some of the drivers, such as Mccarron, have already reporting overheating issues in these first 9-10 laps.
That's a great report, Justin. The concern with an adjustment for tape, while it does help leading, it doesn't matter how open that grill is. When you're tucked up tight, you are going to run warm. What Justin brings up is a great point, though. Can you be more aggressive with the tape? If you're going to try to lead, you will have more speed, and you can turn. Well, that's a big move we see right there. Got my attention from Nick Ottinger, who pulled up in front of the 36. The 46, it's a points battle. A point for leading a lap, and also bonus points for leading the most laps.
All he can do, again, without the win and you're in, is lead the most laps, get the race win. He would walk away maximum points of 45. That kind of throws the gauntlet to ROVAL. And speaking of which, let's look a little bit further back. You're looking at the 23 machine to Casey Kerwin in 27th. These are all the drivers hanging back. We had a little bit of a discussion about this at Vegas last week after the race. The drivers who are defending, like Alfala, he's hanging back, Steve, because he feels like he's got more to lose because he's the driver ahead. So Alfala is 35th right now at the back of kind of this secondary group. The driver that, of course, he needs to defend is Jimmy Mullis, who is leading the race. So the live points would be Alfala out, Jimmy Mullis in. Now, granted, the 2 is going to get into the mix as this race works on, but his concern being the driver on the defensive is he doesn't want to be in an accident early, so he's trying to play it safe by sagging back.
Yeah, but Alfala, who started up in the 16th position back in 35th, he's a 4-time champ. He knows how to manage these situations. He's back here. He knows, look, yellows can happen. Green flags pit stop will happen if yellows don't. Those are opportunities to attack and move up in the pack. The way the draft works, I feel he's back here by himself, a little bit of space around him, easily staying in touch with the pack.
The only multi-time champion in series history of this eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series as recently as 2018. Also taking home championships in 2016, 12, and 11. More bubble drivers, though, sagging back a little bit. That's on board with Brad Davies. Somebody else kind of like Alfala, who started much further up in the field than he's running. Started 12th, has dropped back to 24th. He's far enough back to the point where, importantly, Steve, he's not lost touch with that lead pack. Sometimes we see drivers sag back, go into a group of 5 or 6, but that group of 5 or 6 is way off on speed. The group of 25 or 26 up the road, they fall way behind, and then if you don't get a yellow, you kind of screwed yourself out of the moment there. He's far enough where he's not in the 3 wide that we're looking at up front, but also not too far behind that he's lost touch.
Yeah, I mean, while Brad Davies has not been a champion in this series, he has run all 11 years. So he has the experience. Him and Alfala actually the only 2 drivers in the field with 11 seasons of experience in the iRacing Coke series. So he knows what he's doing back there. He understands the risk versus reward here early.
So as we stay 3 wide for the race lead, Mullis maybe ahead of his teammate counterpart in the middle there. You're looking at the standings down the left-hand side of your screen, and remember that color coding that we talked about? Here's a reminder, the drivers in red, that Coke red, they are good. Those are your 5 drivers who are locked into the postseason. The drivers in blue, though, are either above or below the cut line with a chance of either falling in or going in. Those are your bubble drivers who are fighting for the 3 remaining spots, and they're going to be color-coded blue and red on the ticker all night long, so you can track them as they go. And obviously, big runs right now for Mullis and Clampett first and third.
I love this shot as the cars head towards you. You see the snake a little bit looking for air, a little bit looking for vision. A little bit just reacting to the car in front of you. I have been in these positions. There's just so little view. The next time we go to an in-car in the pack, try to look out in front of them. See, there's just not a lot of vision. You kind of got to peek left or peek right to kind of understand how much room. That's where the spotters become so important. Not just clearing your car, but telling you what's 1, 2, 3, 4 cars in front of you.
And it doesn't get any easier whether you're on row 13 or whether you're on row number 3. Here's an onboard look with Brian Schoenberg, one of the drivers, as we mentioned. The difference between the drivers fighting for a playoff spot and drivers fighting for the relegation. It has not been a good season for Brian Schoenberg, and it has been an even rougher couple of weeks. 31st, 36th, and a midfield finish at 20th at Las Vegas. His average finish for the year, Steve, 31st. His objective, now that he knows he's well behind the playoff cut, is to take not only tonight, but as those 8 playoff drivers are fighting for the championship, he and everybody else has to use those final 4 weeks of the year to try to be top 20 if you want to stay in this championship for 2021.
Yeah, Schoenberg's not mathematically out. It is a big hill to climb all the way down. He only has 154 points, about 150 points behind where he needs to be, 130 points behind where he needs to be. That is a lot to make up, but it is possible. We've seen drivers go on hot streak and gain points in the punches. We'll see if he can pull it off, as it's gotten no calmer at the front. Every time we go to the back, I think we're going to come back to the front. It's going to look a little more calm and in control. No, so far, not so far.
Yeah, the pack looks roughly the same. It's just this guy is where that guy was and vice versa. They're always moving. Nobody really wants to sit anywhere, constantly making moves. And, of course, we talked earlier, mentioned the difference between the pros and the Joes. In the case of myself, trying out the sim, I want to remind you as well, as you see the live points on the left-hand side of your screen, that with iRacing, every day is race day. And you can sign up for an iRacing membership and start your sim racing career by logging on to iRacing.com today. That is 50% off all new memberships, as always. And maybe one day you'll be fighting in the Coke Series with a shot at $300,000. A lot of these drivers started their sim racing careers before esports was even a term. They've been around the block a couple of times through the racing sims, and it has evolved into something quite spectacular, as Jimmy Mullis is going to take the race lead back from Logan Clampett. You see those top 3 pinned at the top of your screen.
Listen, you talk about the average Joes. I love Speedway Racing. We kind of do it on a little league on Tuesdays and Wednesday nights at times. I'll give you a little hint. Someone who's good at it, former Alabama quarterback A.J. McCarron. That man is a drafting machine. You just better be ready, because he will push you. He's not as good as these guys, but he's as calm as these guys. He can run 2 and 3 wide. Not me, Evan. I need the whole track. 2 wide at most. I definitely can't be, as we ride on forward with Nick Ottinger. 3 wide at the top. This would not work for me.
And Nick Ottinger probably feels like that 4 feet up to the outside of all he's got is plenty. I don't know if I'd be able to keep it still. And with the onboard, we talk about temps, sticking the nose out, trying to get some air to it. All of this is a methodical process while you're racing 205, 206 now miles an hour off and into turn number 1 in a virtual sense. So you're not risking life and limb, but there's a lot on the line here. The teams you represent, your sponsors, and of course the pride. If you want to go out and be successful, you want to be a winner in this series. Over 11 years, 52 different drivers have done it, and only about 20-something of them are multi-time winners. So you get a win at this level of sim racing, there's no guarantee that you ever get back to the top of that mountain. But as we kind of take this wider look at this lead pack, last time by, your top 21 cars were scored within 1 second of each other.
You know, I threw a softball out to Nick Ottinger. I let him tell us how he was in the playoffs, and this was just going to be a fun race, and he didn't bite. He said, I come to every race to win. It was so refreshing to hear, and that's what you're seeing. I mean, look at this. 2 wide, 3, 3, 3, 3. I mean, it is an absolute bundle of cars.
And so far, so good. 19 laps down from Talladega, incident-free in the regular season finale. You're watching the iRacing Esports Network and coverage of the 2020 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series from Talladega.
For those living together and those living apart. For classmates, graduates, and teachers making the best of it. For the restaurants delivering to our doorsteps. For the frontline workers putting it on the line every single day. For this great nation determined to be stronger on the other side. Thanks to all of you, we'll be together again.
to the end for some and the beginning for others. After all the races and all the wrecks, it's down to 10 drivers. And though each and every one of them wants it, only one can be named champion. And for whoever is, the champagne will taste pretty darn sweet. I am the NASCAR Gander RV and Outdoors Truck Series Playoffs. I am the future, but I am happening right here, right now. I am where names you know become names you'll remember forever.
AT98 behind 890.
Names etched in metal, in memory. What name will we speak of long after this? I am going to show you. I am the NASCAR Xfinity Series Playoffs. Names are made here.
Too fast since the day it opened. Talladega is a 200-mile-an-hour nose-to-tail, four-wide parade through racing history. Risky, unpredictable, the fastest show on earth always demands your very best. And here it is in the middle of the playoffs, with all that pressure, and the big one just out there waiting. The NASCAR playoffs continue on NBC.
And back live from the virtual Talladega Superspeedway, coverage of tonight's race is brought to you by Coca-Cola, the official fan refreshment of eNASCAR. And by ASUS, the official gaming hardware partner of the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series. Continuing under green flag conditions here from virtual Lincoln, Alabama, and as these drivers close in on pit stops, want to remind you to enter tonight's ASUS giveaway. You can walk away with not only a one-year iRacing membership, but an ASUS swag bag and an XG17. To enter, go find the ASUS Twitter account. It's at ASUS_ROGNA, and click on the link about today's giveaway for more information. The 25 laps in the books. Jimmy Mullis still in front as we welcome you back into the booth with Steve Letarte and myself, Evan Pisogo. And Steve, very similar to the opening race at Daytona, as we mentioned. This is the third super speedway race of the year. Our season opener at Daytona had no yellows. Doesn't mean no wrecks. They jumped in plenty on the white flag lap. And then our trip to Daytona a couple of weeks ago had 4. Looking more like the opener tonight than last month. There are 26 laps. Not only has it been caution-free, but we really haven't had any huge pucker moments so far, despite a lot of sustained 3-wide.
It just showed you not only the talent, but the respect, the patience, the give and take that we see, because there have been moments, as you see everybody move around for both vision and air, there are those moments where you have to give up an advantage of your own to help a fellow competitor out. I think that's what we're seeing. We know how much is on the line. It's the final race of the regular season, 3 seats left at the table for the playoffs, and we have yet to see the first green flag pit stop. But what I have learned from my experiences of going to Talladega is intensity ratchets up. First pit stop, second pit stop, over the course of this race, that intensity, that give and take, it will change.
We talked strategy off of the get-go as we run on board with Corey Vincent, another one of our bubble drivers coming into this one. He was 12th, though, entering this evening, so it is quite a reach for him to get to Ray Alfalla, but he's doing a good job. He's running top 10. Most importantly, Alfalla, the driver that he's trying to chase down, is not ahead of him. Logan Clampett, though, in second, you can see, highlighted in blue. 7th in the points, is doing a very good job at playing defense right now. But we touched on strategy off of the top. We're 28 laps in. That was 67 laps to go last time by, and the fuel makes this relatively clear cut on it being a 2-stop race if we stay green. but it's not tight enough that you kind of have to pit within a 1 or 2 lap window here or there. Drivers do have a bit of variance, and that ties in with the team aspect that we chatted about earlier, because you don't want to be pitting by yourself. So I'm sure those conversations are already ongoing right now.
Yeah, you don't want to come by yourself. You're going to get that virtual hand out the window by radio communications and let people know you're coming. You see right here, that's off from turn 4 heading into the tri-oval. You see how there's room to the left, but if the car in front of you, when you're only a foot off the car in front of you, if that car pits, you don't know he's coming. You could turn a car around. Getting to the pit road here could become very hairy at times. So communication is key when it comes to green flag pit stops. I think we expect to see him, whatever, maybe 3 or 4 more laps.
Yeah, that hits on about that kind of 1/3 distance marker in this race. I think the Asus race analysis put us anywhere 32 to 35 laps, enough leeway for drivers to start thinking about it. Unless you're in that second or outside lane, in which I would advise against making a dive to pit road. Not that that didn't stop them. We rewind to that Daytona race 3 weeks ago. There was a huge wreck during green flag pit stops, when there was a lot of miscommunication between drivers on who was pitting and who wasn't. A couple of the cars tried to pit from the middle lane, and they cut across the nose of the guys down on the bottom. Unlike in real life, you don't just stick your hand out the window and wave to let somebody know that you're coming down pit road. There is driver to team communication. You can have a lot of those conversations with your teammates, your crew chief, your spotter, that you don't want everybody else to have. One benefit of sim racing, Steve, is these guys can queue up on the open radio and talk to all 36 other cars, let them know I'm pitting, in hopes that maybe avoids some confusion.
I will say, though, and I'll put warning out there now as we ride on board with Conti right here. You see, is that a yawn? That's my kind of relaxing. I mean,
the 3 wide is not exciting enough. He needs more.
You know, I yawn when I'm nervous. Maybe we'll give him that, but I don't think so. He's got a lot of experience. What I was getting ready to say is, regardless of the communication, if you pit from the middle lane, you cause an accident, I don't care. I don't care who you told. That's just irresponsible. You know, even in real life, you know when you need to pit, you have to work your way to the bottom of the racetrack. We have seen it in real life, so these wouldn't be the only guys to do it. But if you're going to pit, you have to do it from that left-hand side.
And now there's a chuckle out of Conti, so I don't know if somebody in his team was keeping an eye on the broadcast and told him that we caught that yawn, but a bit of a smile there as he rides fourth in line in the middle. He knows, but look up top, there are big slides. You can see that green car slicing across. That's the Interstate Batteries Toyota of Graham Boland. We talked about him, and he had such a good car at Las Vegas, but it didn't come to fruition. He had kind of jumped off the page to be, but how about these two guys, Malik Ray and Colin Keister? It seemed like we looked away for a handful of laps. Malik Ray started this race 27th. He's now 4th. Keister started 32nd. He's now 7th. So that ties right in with what we said. Qualifying helps, but especially here at Talladega, it is not the end-all be-all.
No, you have opportunity to move up, and those opportunities can come in these green flag pit cycles. It seems like the bottom lane getting very, very organized as we ride on board with Logan Clampett. It seems like the bottom lane's getting pretty tight, pretty organized, so I think they're looking for pit stops.
And we just checked in with Michael Conti. You can't really see him, but that very right-hand side of Logan Clampett's shot there, that is Conti's sim rig. I think you can see one of his triple monitor setups there. So those two newly minted roommates as of a couple of weeks ago. They've now got a couple of these races under their belt in the same room, but we had an opportunity to chat with, in effect, both of them last week at Las Vegas, as those guys are racing out of the same room, and both are running right now in top 10 positions, so represents you very well. You can see Clampett, though, when you're on the bottom, and we talked about conserving, you know, and not try to overheat these cars, he gave Mullis a bit of a push there, Steve, at a 2, and then he quickly backed off. What we saw on the outside was that Novak was able to push Boland for longer because he could stick his nose out to the right, get some clean air to it on the straightaway. That option isn't really there for the cars on the bottom. They can't make those moves up and down, at least safely, to get some air. You're a little bit more restricted, I think.
Yeah, more restricted. You mentioned 2 sim racers out of the same location. They must have some of that fast Xfinity Wi-Fi. I'm going to struggle to split the Wi-Fi with my own children, and we have a battle here as we see Boland currently in the 3rd position.
Yeah, he looks a lot more, I don't know if locked in is the way to put it, but he looks a little bit more intense than that one look we got with Conti.
He does. I don't see any yawning here. I like focus. You see He looks at the screen, and if you look really close, you can see how he looks down and up, down and up, down and up. That's him continuing to check his mirror just to see where the car is beside him. He probably is looking at his left A-post mirror, looking right there at the 99, that Valvoline machine of Clamp It. You know, there you go. There's a better shot. Look at his eyes. He'll continue to look up. Just continues to check the mirror. Looks down to the right.
A lot of small movements as well on the wheel. It's not kind of locking it in or making big swings left to the right. Kind of that seesaw action when he gets into the corners.
You got to be very smooth on the wheel. As I watch all these guys, I'm starting to take notes of perhaps why I'm so bad at this, because they look like they're working way less than I am. I think every move, correction, and overcorrection. I'm more of a case mode than I am a drive mode.
Still side by side for the lead, and surprisingly, nobody diving to pit road. We've already passed by a good bit now the 1/3 distance marker, and there we go, right down to the pit lane as I say it. So Mullis, he hits the parachute, he's down pit road. Challoner, Novak, Vincent, and Schoenberg. So that is a relatively small group of just 5 cars that come in.
Nice job, though, of hanging a very hard left-hand turn once you got onto the banking or out of the banking of turn 4 to not get run over. I like that commitment, but I think that first wave of pit stops is going to drive some more pit stops. We'll see here if this group is as successful. I expect it to be a much larger group.
Well, they caught me off guard because I didn't hear anybody talking, but I just heard Keegan Leahy over the open chat that says he's going to be down pit road. Casey Kerwin is saying the same thing. So let's see how big this group of cars is that comes down pit road. Looks like Bolin up front going to stay out. Here they come from behind. Overland, highest running car from P9. A lot of drivers locking it up, but clean, as that is a group of 9.
A group of 9, once again, though, you mentioned it. Some excitement, some tire smoke, but clean onto pit road. Impressed with the fuel window. 37 laps in, farther than we expected them to go. Still nowhere near far enough to do this on only 1 stop. But it could give us an idea, Evan, if we get a yellow, how far they could perhaps stretch that final tank if they needed to.
Yeah, and the only, situation we're in is, I guess they don't want to go short on the fuel now and say 37 is the number because we're going to have more cars down this time. Let's see if the race leaders do. Bolin and company can keep going, but there's another half a dozen or so down pit road. Down to 55 miles an hour, more tire smoke, but relatively event-free. Is if 37's your number, Steve, you don't want to pit at the second time with 37 laps to go, because here in iRacing, like in real life, we've got overtime. For us, up to 3 attempts. You probably want to kind of save that little bit of extra fuel to the end so that you don't come up short if we end up going for 1 or 2 attempts.
Yeah, the other option, though, is, as we see a huge wiggle in the middle of the pack, the 5th car in line. Can't quite make out the number, Evan. I think it was the VRS machine.
Yeah, that was Zelensky.
Zelensky with a huge wiggle down the backstretch. I wasn't sure if it just got caught on the rear bumper, but those are the things that could start a big accident. Almost a good thing they were single file. And now we see the big turn to left to pit road. It's got to be 12, 13, 14 cars. Will they all get on clean?
Oh, that's a lot of them. A lot of drivers, 3 wide towards the rear. You could see Reynolds, I think that was pushed way to the outside, but that is at least a dozen cars down pit road. And just like that now, that is about everybody having completed service. So these drivers going to try to blend back out onto the racetrack and get in a spot, and they will all be chasing Logan Clampett, I believe. Tentatively is the lead car. This lead pack is going to catch up to him very shortly, but Clampett pushed by Conti are your net leaders. They're being chased down right now by Colin Keister and Malik Ray, and we'll see how these 2, 3, 4 packs, as they all kind of split off into find each other when this thing gets back through. But it's Keister leading this group right now, only good enough for 16th, but there's all the cars that just pitted on pit road, still trying to get up to speed there on the apron.
Yeah, they're not going to be attached to this front pack. This front pack is going to lose them down the backstretch. So, as you were talking about pit strategy, my question for you is, if I run this to 38 or 39, the next one to 38 or 39, and have a shorter final stint, can I short fill my car? Do you think one of these drivers may opt to not fill it all the way up, leave it 1 or 2 or 3 gallons short to just have a faster pit stop if we're still under green?
Yeah, they have the ability to do that. In iRacing, you can go for wholesale tires, which is kind of what you expect when you're filling it all the way up, because it's roughly about the same amount of time for 4. But they can do 2 either way, and you can select exactly how much fuel you want. And this is something that we touched on at Vegas as well. A benefit to the sim over the real life, Steve. I'm sure you would have liked this. Is that I mentioned, the crew chiefs and the spotters, even the drivers, through iRacing's data, can get basically an exact number of exactly how many gallons of gas are left in the car and an estimation of how many laps there are to go. So they can get within a very accurate range. If I only need 20 laps to the end of the race, I can shave off 4 or 5 gallons, whatever that number is. So that is a benefit sim over real life, is you get that data instantly from behind the wheel or on top of the pit box.
Yeah, and your gas man knows exactly how much he's put in. In real life, you kind of time that out with a stopwatch. Unfortunately, in my career, our math on fuel mileage has been very good. I had one that said we were going to run out of gas off turn 4 at Charlotte, and we did. And another one that said we were going to run out of gas off turn 2 at Vegas, and sure enough, we did. So the math was right. Just needed a couple more yellows to stretch it, just like they do here in iRacing. Get much better fuel mileage under yellow.
Maybe that's why some of them are calmer. You take some of those variables out, I think you feel a little bit more in control. We've been talking a lot about Chris Overland. Right now, he's the second car in line on the outside. He's pushing Michael Conti. Justin, you've got a report on him.
Yeah, and believe it or not, he has some issues going on. Take a listen to this.
Corey, I don't know what happened with my graphics, but I need you to tell me if I'm gonna be clear in a hole, because it's only showing me 3 cars in my mirror. Cars are popping up like that aren't there, and then they are.
So that trickiness with visibility is causing some problems with how he's managing the lines. He also had talked about with his allies and trying to break up Mullis and Novak. They've done so, and now different players are up at the front.
Yeah, and to give some context to this, Steve, this is a very sim racing issue. We talk about drivers having their monitors going out or having some sort of an issue with the wheel and pedal set. Basically, in iRacing is depending on what kind of computer you're running the sim on, you could make it more detailed like it looks right now, close to real life, or you can kind of turn those graphic settings down to make it a little bit easier on your computer. And iRacing gives you the option to only show so many cars at once or show so much detail in your mirror just to give the computer a break. And I think what Overland was insinuating when he said, I don't know what happened with my graphics, is somehow his sim settings got messed up, so the sim is only showing him up to 3 cars in his rear view mirror. That's not great when you're in the lead pack of 30 cars.
Yeah, I mean, you have to have that information. You're at a disadvantage to your competitors. Listen, we've seen it. What Denny Hamlin had his monitors shut off in the middle of his race back in the Fox half of the schedule at the beginning of the year. So we have seen it. I've had steering wheel issues. But that's what makes it more realistic in my mind. These cars in real life are not bulletproof. They have mechanical issues. Just this weekend, Austin Dillon lost all the belts off the front of his engine. Those same sort of, quote, mechanical issues can happen here in sim. Unfortunately for the driver, normally it's his own sim rig that fails him.
We're closing in on halfway home in this regular season finale, and the action has been nonstop from the get-go. So we'll lay out, let's take in the sights and sounds of the virtual Talladega Superspeedway as we go iRacing full throttle. That's what virtual Talladega Superspeedway looks like, sounds like, and in some cases it feels like, as this time by 47 laps going to be complete. 47 laps left to go in this 16th race of the 2020 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. You see the big gray Brambolin doing battle up front. There's Conti and Ottinger trying that pesky third lane, which admittedly, Steve, it's been there all night, but they haven't been able to hang on that front row all night. It's sometimes been 2-3 lanes back, and seems like they kind of come and go depending on how much help they have out there at any given time.
I think that's what it comes down to, is purely numbers. The bottom car, 4, 5, 6, 7 in line, he's forced to follow. The middle is a little less forced, but they are still staying organized and in line. That top lane, you see only 3 cars here, a 4th car in the distance trying to join. So it just comes down to numbers. As we get closer to the finish, more cars will be on the outside, more numbers, and they'll find more speed. This is exciting me, though, Evan. I get to go to Talladega this weekend. I'm going to be working pit road for both the Xfinity and the Cup race, and watching this has got me fired up to go down there.
You know, one of my favorite things about doing these on Tuesdays is oftentimes it's kind of like the unofficial kickoff for race week. Talladega here, and you've got tons of Talladega action across all 3 of the National Series coming up this weekend. But as we close in on a second and final trip to pit road and enter the second half of this race, we'll step aside one more time. We're taking you to the end from here. You're watching round 16 of the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series on the iRacing Esports Network.
For those living together and those living apart. For classmates, graduates, and teachers making the best of it. For the restaurants delivering to our doorsteps. For the frontline workers putting it on the line every single day. For this great nation determined to be stronger on the other side. Thanks to all of you, we'll be together again.
I am close. To the end for some, and the beginning for others. After all the races, and all the wrecks, it's down to 10 drivers. And though each and every one of them wants it, only one can be named champion. And for whoever is, the champagne will taste pretty darn sweet. I am the NASCAR Gander RV and Outdoors Truck Series Playoffs. I am the future, but I am happening right here, right now. I am where names you know become names you'll remember forever.
KT 98 behind 890.
Names etched in metal, in memory. What name will we speak of long after this? I am going to show you. I am the NASCAR Xfinity Series Playoffs. Names are made here.
Too fast since the day it opened, Talladega is a 200-mile-an-hour nose-to-tail 4-wide parade through racing history. Risky, unpredictable, the fastest show on earth always demands your very best. And here it is in the middle of the playoffs, with all that pressure and the big one just out there waiting. The NASCAR playoffs continue on NBC.
Coverage of tonight's race is brought to you by Coca-Cola, the official fan refreshment of eNASCAR. And by Asus, the official gaming hardware partner of the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series. One more reminder, to enter tonight's Asus giveaway, you can win a 1-year iRacing membership at ROG Strix XG17 and at Asus Swag Bag. For information, go find their Twitter handle at ASUS_ROGNA for more information, and you can walk away a winner tonight as well, as we look to hand out the final checkered flag of the regular season. So non-stop through that commercial break, let's reset the scene. 40 laps to go this time by, with a pit stop still standing in between our race leaders and making it the distance. But they went 37-ish laps, Steve. Some drivers shorter, some drivers even longer. They've only been out there for about 17 laps since. So there is no guarantee that those pit stops are coming anytime soon.
No guarantee they're coming anytime soon, but they have completely changed the look of this field. For the pit stops, Jimmy Mullis basically dominated this event on the bottom lane. He held the point, he controlled the tempo, led the laps. And since that pit cycle, either because of his time on and off, who he pitted with, I'm not exactly sure how to put my finger on where he lost control of the race, but because of that, he's stuck back there in the fourth row, that 46 red car right there in the middle of the Coke Energy car. I think he has a great race car, but where can he go? I say all of this because if I'm a crew chief of one of these guys, that is what I'm concerned about in the next cycle of pit stops. Is it how many cars? Is it when he came? How do I make sure my driver cycles to the front and then goes on defense for the closing laps?
Yeah, you can lose 5 or 6 now, but if you lose 5 or 6 again, then you're in a position to be concerned about. And specifically in the case of Mullis, just because it's the easiest example in the points, remember, he gained 3 spots in the championship after a win at Las Vegas Motor Speedway last week. Put himself just on the cusp of Ray Alfala coming into this race. We touched on earlier, when Mullis was leading, Ray wasn't even a top 30 car. Live points would show the 47 in, the 2 car out. Well, as Mullis has come back just a little bit, Alfala has started to climb a little bit. You can see, look at the difference. Now just 3 points between the 46 and the 2 as we'll go back down to pit road with Justin.
Yes, and as we approach the top of the green light to make it on field, there's a couple different discussions. Some of the alliances are talking about potentially short pitting and trying to go for a full tank of fuel. Others have talked about, though, going as long as they can on the tank and in turn taking no tires and short fueling the race car. So there's going to be potentially a lot of stops coming up as soon as this lap, potentially as far towards the final 30 laps of this race.
Well, that goes to show, Steve, we were talking about the short pitting and the short fueling, not filling the car all the way up, and kind of assume that it may be on that last pit stop, maybe to go only, the final 20 instead of needing enough gas to go, say, 35 or so. But some drivers may be suggesting that they are going for the short fuel on the middle run, and then they would fill it up for that final one. There's all kinds of discussions, it seems like, being, kind of thought about right now.
Yeah, I love the idea of short pitting. I think you can pit now, go back out, not lose a lap, and then you can basically, if you get lucky enough to have a yellow, go cycle to the front. The concern is, how many cars do you need? If you can get 8, 10, 12 cars and then agree post-pit stop, single file, I think you can have the pace. But that's a lot of orchestrating. I know they have radio communications, but it's very difficult to get 9, 10, 11, 12 drivers to work together. We'll see if somebody can pull it off.
I don't know what is more green, Eric J. Smith's big green egg Ford or that big green wall behind him, but he's leading the outside line right now, having started in 26th position. On that note, it's always one of my favorite stats to look back on. You talk about that pit cycle changing things up, Steve. Only 3 drivers who are running inside of the top 10 right now started inside of the top 10.
Yeah, that's that cycle we're talking about. We need to get our man some Hulk gloves. Go with that green light and the big green machine. Maybe he needs Hulk oven mitts if he's cooking on that big green egg.
Well, I know that they do the virtual tailgate every week, and there's a look at that number 9 machine up on the outside. Listen, I say it tons and tons of times. We got some real slick-looking paint schemes. A lot of cars you'll see on track, you might say, hey, that car looks familiar because the team that it's partnered with is running, the same design or a similar design to the same kind of car they field in the NASCAR Cup Series. Other ones you might not be aware of unless you're familiar with this series. I mean, up front, you got Graham Boland and Joe Gibbs Racing Toyota, Interstate Batteries colors. Those are familiar. On the inside, though, it's his teammate. That's Malik Ray in Rowdy Energy colors. So fun to see that dynamic amongst all these teams. And, Justin also mentioned as we go on board with Garrett Lowe a little bit further down, Steve, he didn't say teams a lot. He said alliances. Remember, you only have one teammate here. As he's taking a sip down the back straightaway, you've only got one teammate on your set of two. And you can't really go me and you versus the other 35 cars on track. So they do have to communicate with drivers on other teams to build larger alliances because there's strengths in numbers.
My head is spinning. My man took a sip of his QT in casual. Look at him. He's like on a Sunday drive. I'm sweating watching. I have my little I know you're watching me through this camera. I have my nervous tennis ball going here as I watch these guys race. He looks calm as can be. I'm so impressed. To your point about numbers, that's the key. You have to take your 2-car team and turn it into a 6, 8, 10, or 12-car team. We'll see if anybody's able to pull that off. I do love the paint schemes. You mentioned that. And I love the variety of partners. We see Sunoco there on the 90, Continental on the 37, real-life sponsors, Interstate Batteries. But then we mentioned the Big Green Egg supporting a car in this eNASCAR Coke Series. Behind that, we have that Junior Motorsports car. We have Logitech on the William Byron car. We got the Sim Chassis, WR Sim Chassis. So many different companies that support what we're here to cover, and it's so much fun to watch.
And of course, our great partners that we had a word from there and allowed us to be non-stop through those commercial breaks so we can still take in all the action. A lot of people make this series possible, and that includes everybody tuning in at home at eNASCAR.com for joining us. That outside line is getting a little bit antsy, though. They really got checked up there. Eric Smith wants to go to the middle. He can't do it. He tried to get in front of the 37. That didn't happen. Conti tried to make him pay. That also won't happen. So it's a fresh reset to how they were at turn number 2, but they were really trying. Let's take a look with our Coca-Cola onboard camera with your championship points leader, Keegan Leahy. What he's trying to do is secure a regular season championship. The Coke on board with Leahy is back deep in the field here, running 31st alongside the Coca-Cola Chevrolet of Blake Reynolds. So those drivers, I would say they're just vibing right now. They're hanging out, they're taking a sip, and they're 2 seconds off of the race lead right now. And honestly, I haven't been that nervous for this lead pack much tonight, but there's been a lot more of that kind of side-to-side movement where, the car in the middle is on front of the car in front of him, and then he's getting hit from behind, Steve, and that's making him wiggle a little bit. And he goes up the track a little bit, down the track a little bit. When you're through wide, it can get ugly. I think that we're certainly at the most intense point of the race thus far, and it's still nothing. These guys know they got to get through that final pit cycle before they're in the home stretch, but it is starting to ramp up just a little bit more, lap by lap. This time, only 30 laps left.
Yeah, Jimmy Mullis has done a nice job. He was stuck in the middle. Now he's leading that outside line in that 46 car. We mentioned it. He controlled a lot of the race before pit stops. Now he's giving himself an opportunity to cycle back to the front. As we were on board with Keegan Leahy, it kind of struck me. That Jumpman, his shirt there, that's huge news in the NASCAR world. Denny Hamlin and Michael Jordan are creating a real-world racing team. Bubba Wallace is the driver. I got to ask myself a little bit, Evan, they have a team together in iRacing. Was this enough? Did a little bit of a Jumpman in the iRacing world push them into real-world NASCAR? It's exciting for the sport.
Yeah, did this kindle the spark? Because that is Jordan branding on that 23 of Casey Kerwin and Leahy both driving for Denny Hamlin to being the only driver and team duo to have their cars win in this series and to have their team owner, a race winner now with as well William Byron as of a couple of weeks ago at Daytona, to win in both the Sim and in real life. But Michael Conti, somebody else who we've been talking about, you shouted out to that WR1 Sim Chassis Chevy. Justin, you got more on him.
Yes, indeed, and take a listen to this as they've been discussing various different things on the radio with this closing strategy.
Just don't think that, I don't know, he's just not moving. I mean, literally, it's like he's got a parachute.
There's really nothing I can do. I can't go high for. He's not leaving enough room to root him up. So it's really nothing right now.
Yeah. Well, that and Eric's so damn indecisive on what the hell he's going to do. He's like, we do that, he'll try to throw a block and wreck the whole damn field.
That last point in reference to Eric Smith, and that's been a constant theme across the radio. Some drivers feeling that stuck feeling, others feeling like that they are going to need to start to push at about 10 to go. But the constant theme is also, do you want to get a good points haul, or do you want to risk getting into an incident running for the race win?
Well, Steve, I'll leave that one to you because I'm sure you've had many of those communications on the radio before here at a play track.
Well, the best ever, in my opinion, that I've seen at the play tracks was Dale Earnhardt Jr. He told me, take every run. Every opportunity you have, you take it.
And these drivers weighing those options as this race gets more critical as it winds down. So I was ready for that final trip down pit road when some of those drivers were discussing maybe coming in. We are now at 27 laps to going, and that is well within the window to go the distance. It's a matter of preference, and that's a good look there as we come into the trial, but to see that Eric J. Smith is on his own on that third line. He can't suck up to anybody. Nobody's pushing him, but he's still hanging tough. That's solely 100% side draft right now that is allowing the 9 to stay there. I don't think it's going to put him to the race lead, but at least it's strong enough to keep him there on about row 2 or 3 as we look way back to P26. That was the bubble man coming into this, Ray Alfala, looking to make the playoffs and fight for a record 5th championship. Steve, he has been out of the conversation all night. 26th position. He is still not comfortable, I think, with kind of pulling the trigger and getting up there into the mess.
Not comfortable, but Ray, the 4-time champion, I think he's out of the conversation by choice. I think he wants to be back here, doesn't want to get into an issue. At some point, he's going to have to push the tempo, but I think it'll be post the final pit stop. I think Ray may be one of those drivers you see pit early. Convince a wave of cars to pit early, get to pit road, get off the pit road. I think the guy that wins this race or the teams that race for the win will be on the front end of this pit cycle. I'd be trying to convince others to join me and come to pit road.
When we talk about the history of defending champions, Ray Alfala didn't even make it last year. He got relegated, and it has been a whirlwind of a year for Zach Novak. Of course, we saw that emotional victory from Homestead Miami Speedway as he took home the better sum of $100,000 prize purse last year, made the switch to Richmond Raceway Esports, and he is a driver that we're going to be talking a lot about in the next 4 weeks. But it's not because that he's going back-to-back. It's because he doesn't want the Ray Alfala fate of being relegated. 21st position, Steve, in points coming into tonight. It has not been a follow-up campaign for the 90 car to remember.
Yeah, while it's not a story that Novak wants to hear, it is a great story for the series because it shows the depth of competition. You cannot have an off week. You cannot have an off year. You will be relegated. And now for Alfala, he did a nice job. He was removed. He fought his way back up, found himself a seat at the table again. But you never want to be in that position.
Yeah, so much so that Alfala had such a dismal 2019 campaign, got sent down to the iRacing Pro Series, which is the feeder series into this, won the championship. Well, we were off in the offseason, came back into this with some gusto, and of course has been to victory lane at one point earlier this season. So those are all the storylines. I did want to update, by the way, we're talking about Jimmy Mullis, and he's looking a lot better now. But Steve, you were asking how he got stuck there. Our friends at Richmond Raceway Esports tweeting and helping us out that he just got caught in the third lane right on the cycle of pit stop. So that's how he got stuck. We want everybody at home tuning in to be a part of that conversation with us. So use the hashtag eNASCAR and let us know what you're thinking about the race, who you think is going to go to victory lane. But there's your update on Mullis, but a lot better now than the last time we mentioned him, because second in line, not a bad spot to be in at lap 71.
Not a bad spot. You have to get concerned, though, as we ride on board with Luza in the 53, currently 16th, but more importantly in that outside lane. We saw Mullis, or we just heard that Mullis lost time by getting stuck in that third lane. Can't have that happen again.
That was a big checkup there for Lusa, who has not had a great second half to the season. Looked like that he intentionally jumped back a little bit, maybe to get off of Davies. He gets down to the inside line. Lusa tied a series record for consecutive wins earlier this year when he won 3 in a row. Homestead, Bristol, and Richmond rounds 3, 4, and 5. Since then, though, not a lot. Trickling all the way to 6th in the points. He needs some momentum late, but the radio chatter is picking back up, and we have takers. Eric J. Smith, first car to dive to pit road. Oh, and he nearly spun the 9 car out. What a catch as he brings in about 6 others.
Yeah, a couple cars looked like they were awful fast. We'll have to see if they were speeding on entry. That's the type of mistake that can remove you from the opportunity to remove your chance of winning. That was the first wave, 5 or 6 cars. Will we see a second wave, and will it be larger?
There was a couple of drivers real close. Let's take a second look. Pit road speed here at Talladega, 55 miles an hour. Here's the onboard look with Smith. And we saw a lot of that tire smoke the first trip down, but that is full lock to the right. He caught it. No speeding penalty for Eric Smith. He is good to go, and he's already blending out back onto the racetrack. One driver that I was concerned about with speeding when he came down pit road, I believe, was the 4 of Santiago Tires, and he is still in the stall, so either he has damage or did get penalized because he's off cycle, and now more drivers coming in. There's some big names, including Mullis. So just looking at my timing and scoring, the top 22 cars now, the number that is yet to come down. And we can confirm now a penalty for the number 32 car, speeding for Keegan Leahy. Your championship points leader may lose that regular season title due to that penalty. Here's another race on pit road. Malik Ray sideways, but they all get it down in time, and that is a massive pack of cars.
A huge pack of cars. You mentioned a penalty for 32. That's very costly. It looked like a penalty for Therese. Small pack of cars still on the racetrack. These guys are going to have to pit. There's just not enough cars out there to have the energy, to have the lap time, 20 laps to go. The question is, will they try to have a shorter fuel stop? Will somebody gamble on just 2 tires? We'll have to see.
And now the next cycle of cars, led by the 97 and John Gorlinski, who secures a bonus point for leading a lap. Will bring the rest of the field around. Talk about it. Up on board. Bob Bryant, P2. He's been awfully quiet tonight, mixed in with some of the louder drivers, the Zelenskis, the Davies, guys that we've touched on. And in a race that isn't, wild, maybe it's not necessarily the greatest thing, but oftentimes at Dega, somebody not talking about you is good news, and maybe Bob Bryant trying to play his cards right to sneak into this battle when it matters the most. This pack is going to swallow up Schoenberg. Let's take a second look. We talked about that penalty with Keegan Leahy. Let's watch his pit road entry one more time.
The best thing you could do is judge him off other cars, and this right here is where I think it's clear he's going too fast, as this car we're riding on board with slows down, and Leahy pulls away with tire smoke out of both the right and the left side.
He was almost in the grass, so much so that he was too fast entering pit road. Here's another entry down. Bob Bryant sideways. Maybe some contact behind. Zelensky and Shearburn may have touched for a brief moment. Everybody fighting for the inside. Another close call, but they all make it, and Zelensky overshot his pit stall. So that's going to cost him just a little bit of time. And then there may be all of them. I think that's everybody now that has cycled through down pit road, back out on track. And this, I believe, your race leaders, Nick Ottinger and company, are going to try to see if they can get around, Steve, that group of cars that just pitted. We saw first cycle, that last group to pit did not beat the cars that pitted before them on track. Let's see if it happens this time. Doesn't look like it's going to happen.
Yeah, the 25 of Ottinger is the leader of the race when it cycles around. Now the question is, where will these other cars blend? 2 on the apron. They won't get out in front. Another one won't get out in front of the leader. We'll see if the 25 of Ottinger can continue this momentum down the back stretch with the push of Conti. He knows he has to get track position now. He has the run. Will he take the high line into turn 3? I think he'll have to with this momentum.
Oh, and the 99 car is into the outside wall. That is Logan Clampett. There was contact in turn 3. No yellow. We stay green after Clampett and Low door slammed. And now more cars out of control at turn number 4. Look out, a wild ride. What a save for the 41 car of Dylan Duval. They're 4 wide trying to get around him. Somehow, we're still green.
Yeah, that was big contact by Clampett on the backstretch, and then a major slide by the 41. 41, he needs to get around. Let's take another look on the right-hand side of your screen. Let's take a look what happens to the 99. Oh, it looks like contact between the 21 and the 99. Not sure how they got together, but in the end, heavy damage to the 99 is the issue.
And watch, so it kind of checks everybody else up, and then the 41 machine comes into the picture. Everybody's slow to try to avoid the incident, and then right there, the 41 touched the 88 of Davies. That's how he ended up in the grass. He had to make that sharp turn up the hill, because if he had gone through pit road, he would have received a speeding penalty. So he dives back up on track, Steve, and I was certain when that 41 was sideways that he was going to pull up in front of a back of cars, and we were going to wad him up. But instead, we survive it. Let's take a second look at that second incident. Watch for the 41 machine right there of Dylan Duval. I mean, not a big touch, and Duval was pushing the car in front of him, but right here is the second part of it that we saw. Look out, right in front of Malik Gray, and then more cars coming from behind. Everybody did a spectacular job of avoiding a big crash.
They did a great job, and here we are now with 16, soon to be 15 laps to go. Ottinger and Kettle, Conti, Bryant, Busa, Smith, Berlinski, Keister, they're stacked up. No more pit stops. You know you can make it on fuel. You know you can make it on tires. Now it's about a draft partner. It's what lane you're going to get into. And once again, the green flag cycle hurts Mullis. Nowhere to be found in the front 3 rows.
He's way down in 19th position after that cycle. Importantly, a big flip, Steve, is not only did Mullis fall back, but he fell so far back that Ray Alfala passed him in the running order. There's the onboard shot with Dylan Duval, the contact on the right-hand side of your screen, and the mad dash to get back up on track and catch that race car. That's why we're still racing, but Mullis dropping behind Alfala. Live points would now put the 4-time champion in. But you're right, it's go time. Not that I haven't enjoyed the first 80 laps of this race, but it's a whole new race now. Doesn't matter where you qualified, doesn't matter how your first cycle, the pit stops was. What matters is where you are right now. That time by was 14 laps to go. A win and maybe a spot in the postseason is on the line.
Yeah, you see 3 wide for at least 7 or 8 rows. A big move by Bob Bryant, top lane to the bottom lane. That is an aggressive move with 14 to go, but he wanted to be at the bottom, it appears.
And some lap traffic up the road. That's the number 10 machine of Justin Bolton. He will hold the outside line. So the 4 wide situation is going to be temporary. It looks like they're all going to fit. But no, I'd kind of said that 3rd lane wasn't sustainable a lot tonight, but it's certainly there now. Let's take a second look with Ryan Luza. Feeling like the big wreck's going to happen. And he's like, I'm good, guys. I'm going to pull away and drop back. This is kind of what we saw Alfala, some of those other drivers who started to impact Steve Duval from the get-go. It's just pull out, drop back, get confused, and hang for a moment. But you can see now, live points. Jimmy Mullis, at one point, was nearly 20 up on Ray Alfala earlier in this race. He lost spots on both pit cycles. He's now -6. But the driver he wants to focus on is the 99 of Logan Clampett, who came into this race just ahead of Alfala, involved in that incident, got into the outside wall, and he is falling with heavy damage.
Well, now it's basically up to Mullis. Logan Clampett has damage. There's no more positions for him. He scored all the way towards the back of the field with heavy, heavy damage. Not a lot of opportunity. So we currently in the 36th position, or 32nd position. So now it is all on Mullis. Can Mullis go find those 2 points? You see it. It was 6. It was 4. Now it's 2. The 46 car is that middle car in the third lane, about 6 or 7 rows back.
He has been doing exactly what he needs to get those spots. You're on board with Bobby Zalenski, riding in line, middle of all the chaos. He's also somebody who's kind of been up and down over the course of this race. You can see he'll now go to the outside, and he's the very back car there, as Zalenski last time by was scored in 23rd position. Go to the outside and try to make some moves, but at this point, if I'm 20th, I'm starting to worry, because next time by is going to be 10 laps to go. There's a lot of race cars to navigate my way through. You're going to have to make moves sooner rather than later. And that outside line is hustling. It is led by another driver who we haven't touched on that much tonight. That's the number 99 machine up on the outside, or the 66 car as well on track of Jarl Tien. Important to note, Steve, that is a lapped car. That's not actually in the battle for the race lead, so keep that in mind for the 66 lead in the third lane. But we've seen all kinds of different looks in with these guys. How about Bobby Zalenski? Looks like he's in the bat cave or something there, sitting in the dark.
He is in the dark. I think I'd get a headache racing in the dark, but maybe it helps his focus, really gets him dialed in. Looking at his eyes, he is focused on what's in front of him here with 10 laps to go.
And you can see the wheel. We saw him swap that out for an open wheel style wheel when we raced on the road course. And that's the thing you can do in sim racing. Adjust, your setup, your functionality, your wheel and pedal set to the kind of racetrack that you're running on. But let's just sit back for a moment and take in this view. We are 3 wide, about a dozen rows deep in a battle for the race win. It's 9 laps to go this time by, with Brandon Hayes-Cattell leading at Dega.
You mentioned the lap car in the third lane. He's in front of the 46 of Mullis currently.
No advantage inside or out right now, and they are pushing now. Those drivers have been, trying to maintain those temps. We haven't seen anybody with overheating issues. We saw overheating issues more so at Vegas than we have so far here tonight at Talladega. But now you're going to be pushing the limit. The car's going to be blinking red at you, telling it it's too hot, and you're going to have to stay in it. You're going to have to hope that the equipment holds together through the end of this race. I mean, we haven't talked a ton, if at all, tonight, Steve, about Bob Bryant, about Brandon Cattell. And they're right now 1-2 on track, arguably in the best position, with that lapped car and Tien kind of slowing down that third lane and not allowing Jimmy Mullis to get anything more.
I'm wondering how long Mullis is going to be patient with Tien, or is at some point is he going to push the issue to 4 wide? You would say Tien should try to get out of the way, but I'm not sure there's anywhere for him to go. He's just doing his part, really trying to keep the pack moving.
Leahy in the middle of it all. Look at Cattell on the front. He tried to get to the inside, but he was not clear of Bob Bryant. There's lap traffic. It's Logan Clampett. Look out. They will squeeze 4 wide off of the corner. It's not going to work. The 24 of Nichols is around, and a caution at 8 laps to go. Thought we were going to be okay. We had gotten away with several instances, Steve, of lap traffic forcing a 4-wide situation and it not being a factor. But that time, as Clampett held the bottom, I think there was a slight touch with maybe the 97 of Gorlinski. And then it was Nichols who ran out of road. We'll get a second look in just a moment. But now it is really a whole new race, almost without an incident. And instead now we have a late race restart on deck.
Yeah, it's very hard to judge Clampett. He wants to stay out of the way, but being so close to that cut line, trying to protect his spot in the playoffs, he has to continue. And you just got to see right here, the field is 3 wide. And as they close in on Clampett, you see Clampett is on the yellow line, but then he gets a little loose. And when he corrects, he definitely catches the 24. And that's where the accident starts.
Just listening into what the drivers are saying about that incident, of course, nobody really happy with how that works out. It's not like somebody had a 6-second lead. It's not like somebody had this race locked up. It was going to be a run down to the end anyways. But a lot of drivers not happy with Clampett for holding the bottom. And, Clampett is doing everything he can at that point, Steve, to try to save points. Again, he was heavily damaged. I think the logic for him there is if he stays on the bottom, so many cars will go up and pass him, but eventually that lead pack will just kind of absorb him, and he'll stop dropping further and further behind. Granted, he's not going to gain any more points, but at least stop the bleeding. I think that's why Clampett holds on the bottom, is he wanted to get kind of sucked up into that lead pack, because his playoff hopes, his playoff life is on the line.
Yeah,
and certainly after that incident, it's worse than it already was.
Yeah, I just feel that Clampett had too much damage to try to make that move. I understand the point situation. I think at that point he would have been better off to just lift enough to go to the apron, but they're counting every point, and they are changing every single lap, every corner, and Mullis has once again put himself in position, running 6th, to move into the playoffs, to come into the final race of the regular season below the cut line and to jump above the cut line. That is a great feeling if he can pull it off.
Well, we talked about the plus-minus coming into this, and we really focused on Alfala and Mullis in the first half of this race, because, again, Clampett was even further up the road in 7th, but once that incident happened, kind of happened right after the pit cycle in which Ray Alfala actually got in front of Jimmy Mullis. The next thing you know, the conversation is about Clampett, somebody who every time we had checked in on with the live points all night was relatively safe. Instead, he finds himself in a tricky spot. And as we pace around the Talladega Superspeedway, Steve, I'll hand you the headset because we've got Bob Bryant on the radio.
All right, Bob, you've put yourself in position. 6 laps to go as we sit here under caution. Probably a restart around 3 laps to go. Do you have enough? Do you know what line you need to be in for this final sprint to the finish?
Yeah, I think we definitely have the car. Called a good strategy here, got us up front, and I have no idea, Steve. You've seen a couple of these. You tell me, where should I be?
Hey, listen, I understand. Everyone seems to have their own energy, and that's my question. The race seemed to be very patient. Green flag pit stops jumbled up the running order both times, but then those closing laps, 2 wide turned into 3 wide, turned into 4 wide. Can you feel the intensity from behind the wheel picking up as we get closer to the checkered?
Yeah, 100%. You know, we kind of chilled out there in the back the first couple of runs, and it seems to be how these races go. Everybody's just kind of taking their time and chilling out, and then suddenly everyone's in a big hurry, and we're definitely at that phase. So, you know, that's all right. It's gonna be a fun finish. Hopefully we get one. Hopefully we don't have a green white checker. Hopefully it's just this one restart, and we'll see what happens.
You can mention the green-white checker, but I think you guys have put on an unbelievable show. Good luck, man. Get a good start. If I knew what lane was the right lane, I would still be on top of the pit box. So good luck. I'm just calling the race. It's been fun to watch.
Appreciate it, Steve.
So much fun, Evan, that these drivers take their time to talk to us out there pacing the field under caution. So much fun.
Yeah, he's in obviously a very high-pressure moment. You know, he's getting set for a restart, which could be with 4 or so laps to go in the race, and still taking some questions from us. Let's watch Jake Nichols with this, because, again, he's the one that gets into the back of Clampett, and I want to see if there's contact between Clampett and Gorlinski. As Gorlinski comes down right there, I think it's what loosens up Clampett. You saw that right front damage on Clampett. I think the 97 cut him off a little bit. That's what got Logan Squirrely taking out Nichols. Obviously, the best position would be to not hold the bottom anyways, but I did think Clampett had some help, and we saw the onboard perspective with Jake Nichols as the lights go out on top of the pace car, and we get set to get this race back in. Jake, I'll ask you really quickly before we get back underway, what'd you see from behind the wheel?
Just a lot of nothing. It was just we were all packed up together. I was trying to hold my line, but they were trying to pinch us up top, so you couldn't really move too far up. But I think there was some contact with Clampett, and I think it was Davies or whoever was in front of me there, and I think it got Clampett a little squirrely, and that made us hit each other. But it happens. Hopefully we got a good enough car to at least compete here at the end. It's gonna be a wild show. Everyone tuning in is gonna really see some crazy stuff here for sure.
Been real fun so far tonight. We'll let you get back after it, but Jake, thanks for the word.
Yep, no problem.
Jake Nichols involved in the incident, going to drop back to 31st position for this restart. Now the stage is set. Lights out on top of the iRacing.com pace car. It will be a 4-lap to go shootout. Front row led by Bob Bryant, accompanied by Brandon Cattell, with Nick Ottinger, Eric Smith, and Michael Conti through the top 5. But we've got 33 cars on the lead lap who I'm sure feel like they've got some sort of a shot at winning this race. Could it be the final restart of the night and the final restart of the regular season? Bob Bryant going to start the field when he wants. He's the control car on the inside of the front row. Green flag flies, 4 laps to go. Cattell doing his best to stay on the door. He's pushed by Eric Smith, second in line up top. But as those inside cars get hooked up first, Bryant's going to lead at a 2.
Surprised to see the fight for the top. I thought the bottom line would stay organized. It's anything but. We see 2 or 3 cars move to that third lane. Now they bail back into the middle. A lot of organization in that middle lane for the 14 of Cattell.
So now only 3 cars on the bottom. The outside actually holds its total strength in numbers more. A little bit more discombobulated, though. Look at the 17 to Keister. 7th car in line. He'll go high to low. He'll bring Matt Busa with him, but very non-committal. He now jumps right back up to the outside. Bob Bryant going to lead with 3 laps to go. Those live points for the playoff bubble back on the left-hand side of your screen. Jimmy Mullis is holding P6. If he stays, he'll fight for a championship as he's 3rd in line on the outside.
That's the big story. Not only who can win the race, but who can make it into the playoffs. Mullis has found his way back to the front. Oh, but now they're going to jump to the outside of the 46. This could cost him points if the outside line gets organized.
Oh, and it's a big move. The 17 went up late. Keister got hit in the back end pretty aggressively by Malik Ray, and that outside line fell apart. They go back to 2 wide. Now it's the 33 of Guest thinking about it, but nobody able to get a 3rd lane going. All the way down now to 2 laps to go. They need to get to the white flag for this race to be official. It's Bryant now leading just barely in that middle lane.
You see right here, nose to tail on the outside, nose to tail on the inside, pushing and shoving, trying to get that advantage, trying to push that car to the front. A lead change. Bob Bryant goes to the left, gets in front of the 25 of Ottinger.
And that's akin to the push by Cattell. Cattell with the assist, pushing the 77 to the race lead. But Cattell now in a very good position. He leads the middle. Here comes that 3rd lane, though. It's Bobby Zelensky, pushed by the 33 car behind of Michael Guest. This race going to be official. It's the white flag presented by iRacing.
And as that outside lane forms, that puts Mullis stuck in the middle. Can he find the points to advance to the playoffs? Who can get to the start-finish line first? Can Mullis advance?
The advantage goes inside, then middle, then outside, but they all leave it up on the final trip down that Alabama gang back straightaway. It's Zelensky and O's in front, but he'll stall out on the outside. It is going to be 3 lanes of drag racing through the final set of corners. A handful of drivers looking for first career wins. Zelensky wants some more on a great 2020 season, but the advantage is to the middle as they wreck behind, and Brandon Cattell, a Coke Series winner, gets it done at Talladega. What a finish, as everybody gave it 110% and then some. Half the field is going to limp across the start-finish line. Those lead dozen or so, Steve, kept it in one piece, but I think it was a blown engine mid-pack by the 5 car of Matt Busa that threw that second half of our lead pack into total disarray.
What a run to the finish by Cattell. Best finish this year until today. A 6th a week ago at Las Vegas. Backs that up with a win at Talladega. Clint Boyer racing to victory lane. A great battle.
That is career win number 1 in attempt number 63. For Brandon Hayes Cattell, he becomes the 53rd driver to ever do it. This winning moment is brought to you by Coca-Cola, the official fan refreshment of eNASCAR. And in another world, that's like the walk-off win for William Byron. That puts him in the playoffs. Instead, for Cattell, it is just the trip to victory lane for the very first time. And yeah, the playoffs would make it a little bit sweeter, but for somebody who has worked so hard to finally get a win at the top level of NASCAR sim racing. It is such a huge moment for the 14. Let's relive it and watch that last bit of the final lap again.
They were stacked up 3 wide, 6, 7, 8 rows deep as they thunder off turn 4 into the tri-oval. You see the push from the 9 to the 14, I think makes all the difference. A huge accident behind them.
You got 4 or 5 cars tumbling across the start finish. And I said it when they were in 2, Steve. The inside was ahead, then the second line, then the outside. But again, they used that bank into their advantage. They were all dead even into 3. If I had to pick a lane that was going to win it, though, the middle probably wouldn't have been my guess. I would have thought the inside may have been better or the outside with the momentum. But you hit on it with Eric Smith. That assist to Cattell is what made the difference there.
Yeah, and we talked about at the start of the show, the location of the start-finish line. We have seen the inside 2 lanes kind of have an advantage. Comes on the exit of that tri-oval. In the end, it was the middle lane and a first-time winner.
He celebrates it on the front straightaway as a first-time winner. Let's take a look at tonight's full race results as the regular season is now done, and we're going playoff racing in 2 weeks' time. But at least for the moment, that's how they finished. Cattell's margin of victory, 0.054 seconds out of Eric J. Smith, the Jim Beaver Esports entry. Bob Bryant, Bobby Zelensky, Jimmy Mullish, your top 10. Nick Ottinger, the Michaels, 7th and 8th. Zach Novak, 9th, and Colin Keister, P10.
Ray Alfalla does what he needs to do, or ends up in the 12th position. Does what he needs to do to advance. Corey Vincent in 14th. Jarl Tien, we saw him a lap down. The caution got him back. He ended up 16th.
And continuing on through the likes of Luza, Kerwin, some of the drivers who, Malik Ray, Matt Busa, those were 2 drivers we talked about a lot, especially Malik Ray halfway through this race. He's way back there. And then the big hit, I think, we don't have the official points, but Logan Clampett had a big gap coming into this race. All he needed to do was get a decent result. He's involved in an incident, finishes in 36th position, and I don't think that's going to cut it for the 99 team. Let's rewatch that finish. I'm sure I'm going to go back tomorrow and watch it another dozen times, but let's watch it slow motion, get a better idea of what happened.
Yeah, you see middle of the pack, contact, the cars go up, heavy contact with the outside wall.
And you can see 1, 2, 3, those top 10 drivers make it barely. Smith in the middle beating out Bryant for 2nd position. That's how they came home, 1 and 2. Those lead 10 cars across the start-finish line separated by just 0.02 of a second. So that was super tight for those drivers across the start-finish line. So just like that, our 250 miles of racing are done tonight from Talladega. Our regular season has also come to a close, and closing it out in style was Brandon Hayes Cattell, a first-time winner in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. Steve is caught up with him.
Well, Brandon, first, congratulations. First career win. What's it feel like to get to victory lane?
Man, this is Talladega, man. This is awesome, dude. Last week, after that great run, I posted, I have this win sticker, and I really wanted to put it on my computer. So this week, it's finally going on there, and that feels, this is crazy. I've always wanted to win one of these things. This is awesome, man.
Yeah, it was a great run. My question is, at what point did you think you had enough? Off turn 4 through the trial, but we saw you get a huge push the 9 through the trial, but was that the difference?
Yeah, Eric, he's my teammate. He helps build the Slip Angle Motorsport chassis, and man, he was pushing me so hard there off of 4, and I knew if he could just stick with me, we had it won. Bob just kept on staying to the bottom, and if I knew if I controlled the middle lane, it was done for. I knew we were gonna have it. I still can't believe this. This is awesome, man.
Hey, man, enjoy it. Congratulations. You're a winner in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola Series. Great race. Congratulations.
I'm going to take my daughter to Disney World now. This is awesome, man.
Well, that's your race winner, and let's continue the conversation now with the driver who comes home in second position in this one, Eric J. Smith. Stevie, he ended up giving the assist to the 14 machine. Wasn't long ago where Eric J. Smith got his first career win in this series, so I know he would have wanted the win, but I think he knows how much that means to the 14.
Yeah, Eric, the big green machine was in the position to not win the race, but to give the race-winning push. Great help for your teammate in front of there from slip angle. You pushed him through for Clint Boyer Racing. What kind of day did you have? You're up front most of the day towards the end.
Yeah, Steve. Man, I'm amped up for Brandon. That's such a big win for him. He's been in this series for such a long time, and he's someone I've always looked up to, especially on these plate tracks. Wow, what a win, what a finish for Team Slip Angle to come here and finish 1-2, especially getting Ray into the playoffs too. I believe he's in the playoffs, getting him in there. But what a showing for me to come out and run well for Big Green Egg and finish second again at a super speedway. I can't thank Big Green Egg enough and Jim Beaver Esports and Team Slip Angle for constantly pushing me, all my family and friends, trying to get me to stay with it and chase after that top 20 in points. We've had a rough Las Vegas and didn't look very good going into this race, but that's exactly what we needed, a great finish there. I just can't be happier for Brandon. And, a 1-2 is always great for the team.
Take us through those closing laps. It's just so exciting to watch, so much chaos, but stuck there in the middle. How much are you side drafting? How much are you just pushing the car in front of you?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of work that's going into my wheel, trying to get the car positioned in a way that is going to make my lane go further, or make somebody in the bottom lane or top lane make a mistake, and then I can capitalize on that. Managing temps just like they do in Cup, Xfinity trucks, every time you go to a super speedway is a big deal. And so that whole last lap, going across the start finish line, starting that last lap, I knew I had to save for a final push at the end. And I could tell that Bobby Zelensky and Michael Guest up top were going to be really quick. They had fresh cars behind them. We're stacking up, getting big runs. And I could also tell that the Team Conti boys on the bottom following Bob Bryant, they were all saving too. So I was like, okay, I don't need to push too hard right now. I don't want to push Cattell too far out and then have them, the bottom and the top lanes come by and side draft him and get a run. So the whole last lap down the backstretch, I was actually in the same communications channel with Brandon Cattell, and I was telling him exactly what I was doing. I was like, all right, lifting. And then out of 4, I was like, all right, here comes a big push, buddy. Pushed him really hard down the front straightaway, across that big tri-oval, coming to the line that's just past it. And he got the win. I think the engine temps got up to about 290 on oil, but that Ford Performance motor hung on, and it just took him right to the win. So it's nuts. In real life, it's nuts as well. It's just crazy how fun it is to come out here and get to mix it up with these guys.
Well, the Big Green Egg looked good with the big green light background. You got the good-looking background, man. Congratulations on a good run.
Thank you, Steve. Appreciate it.
One other driver that's in that similar situation, we talk about kind of the battle within the battle, and there's so many drivers fighting to just stay in this championship for next season, Steve, and that applies as well to P3 tonight. Bob Bryant, it is his second top 5 of the year, and a lot of critical championship points for a driver who wants to be here in 2021.
Well, Bob, we talked to you right before the final run to the finish. You asked what lane. I thought you were in a good spot on the bottom in the end. I think it was just a little more help, a little more of a push in the middle. Is that what it looked like from where you were sitting?
Yeah, we had a great pusher in Nick Ottinger behind us, and I thought I learned my lesson from Daytona with Zelensky when he controlled the whole race, as he said, and he did it from the bottom, right? So I was trying to be on the bottom there, but 2 slip angle cars on the outside, they did a heck of a job hooking up. And ultimately pushed Cattell to the win there. So great run for the Xerox Camry. Definitely heartbroken to finish P3 like that, but solid points tonight. I'm also really heartbroken for Clampett. It looks like he's not going to make the playoffs, which is just really unfortunate. He's had a heck of a year.
Well, you mentioned the points, and there is the push for the playoffs. You mentioned your teammate, but you have a push as well to stay inside that top 20. Today's run has to be a great step to try to protect those points and make sure you are guaranteed to be back next year.
Yeah, I feel like I belong here. This is the first year for me in this series, and you know, we haven't had the best of speed all year, but we've been really consistent. We've had good finishes, and yeah, to your point, it was a good points night to stay, you know, towards that goal of staying in the series for next year. So had a lot of fun. Hope it was a good show for the fans, and yeah, we'll see what we can do at the ROVAL next week.
Well, man, it was fun to watch. Great run and great taste of football teams. I like your Pats banner behind you. Go Pats.
Amen. Amen. Go Pats.
Well, there's your top 3 finishers tonight from Talladega Superspeedway. Another big thanks to Bob Bryant there as well as Eric J. Smith and your race winner, Brandon Cattell, for talking with us post-race in this one. And, you know, honestly, for everything that has happened in this 2020 calendar year, I still say that it feels like we started this season at Daytona just a couple of weeks ago. But now we are through the 16-race regular season, and we're ready to fight for the championship that sees its largest ever purse at more than $300,000, $100,000 guaranteed to our series champion. But now it gets difficult. I mean, you thought that racing against 39 of the other best sim racers in the world was tough. Now you're going to have to go head to head in 2 rounds of playoff elimination style racing. And we are working on tabulating those final points. We want to get that number to you in just a moment. So before we talk points, let's kind of recap this one. Steve, what'd you think of a wild Talladega race that was kind of calm up until the end?
Calm until the end. I think a lot what we were expecting. They were very respectful early, a lot of 2-wide racing, a lot of space between cars, a lot of give and take. A little shocked at how much the green flag cycles did jumble up the field, whether it was getting to pit road early, getting there efficiently. We saw a couple of pit road speeding penalties. That's not new for Talladega. And just what we expected. After the last pit stop, everybody knew it was time to go. 2 wide turned into 3, turned into 4. And in the end, there wasn't enough space with the lap car of Logan Clampert, caused the big accident, and then the sprint to the finish. And a great shove and a great wreck behind him coming to the line.
Yeah, kind of like Daytona earlier this year. We did get a yellow in before it, but it seems like in these plate races, once you get to the white flag, it all kind of goes out the window, and these drivers are going checkers or wreckers. And we saw that there mid-pack. The only blown engine was that final lap kicked off by Busa, and it led to a whole amount of calamity. But, you know, now we're at the point where it's a totally different mindset. We've been kind of pounding the point home the last couple of weeks. There is no win and you're in. You need to be consistent, and it's tough through 16 weeks to not really have 2 bad weeks. I think you could probably have gotten away with 1, but you have 2 bad weeks, and it's tough in this series to be top 8. I mean, that is, you know, twice as difficult in theory, Steve, as the Cup Series, in which it starts at 16, and then you go to the round of 16, and you can say, we can top 10 our way through. You know, we can just be good. And then when we get to 12, it's a little bit more serious. Here, we're already in the round of 8. And now the rules change a little bit because with these 8 drivers, win and you're in is now in effect. So if any of these 8 playoff drivers win any of the next 3 races, they're locked into the Homestead finale. So we do have a week off. So in 2 weeks, you got to flip that switch in your mind, and it's a totally different strategy. It's a totally new game as we reset the points for those top 8 and fight for a championship.
It is, and I think the goal needs to be a win. I think a win is the guaranteed ticket. You don't want to sit back and think you can point your way in. You never know how quick it can fall apart. And the ROVAL is in the middle of that. So you throw in the road course in the middle of this round. There's so much excitement, so many different players. I'm excited to guarantee to see who's in the playoffs and then see how they approach it when we head into the playoffs in 2 weeks.
Yeah, Bobby Zelensky, I'm sure, is a big fan of that road course race being later on in this round. Let's take a look, though, at tonight's Coca-Cola move of the race and recap how this one all came to its conclusion. And no surprise here that it was this big run coming down to the end of the race. You can see the 14 of Cattell had been at a disadvantage. Let's listen in on what these drivers were saying as this final lap came underway. You can see for the 14 between, we'll get that replay back up in just a moment and listen in to what those drivers were saying. You know, I mean, that was just a quick glimpse of what it looked like at the white flag lap. I mean, Bobby Zelensky was 4 car lengths back on that very third and outside line. To come back and have an opportunity to win it, to end up in position 4, I think is still big for him. But I had to wonder how nervous Jimmy Mullis was, knowing that coming to the white, he's probably good. He's safe. He can just hang out P5 or 6. But that everybody else around him wanting to fight for the win, all he needed to do is kind of keep his nose clean and to make sure he didn't have any issues. So many happening, so many different objectives for those guys up front there at the end.
Yeah, I think Mullis was feeling good about it until the 3 wide got to his outside. Then once he got stuck in the middle, he was just a passenger at that point. There was nothing he could do to gain any more points. The only question was how many would he lose? And in the end, I believe that Mullis was good enough where he finished in the 5th position to hopefully gain enough points and move forward into the playoffs.
Let's take that second look now at our Coca-Cola Move race, and it is going to be the final lap of this Talladega 250. And, I mean, every single time you've got a green finish plate track, it's certainly going to be thrilling. But I think we look at all of the different playoff and championship implications that were on the line in this race here tonight. Certainly a Talladega finish that is going to go down in the record books as one of the most fun and of course, most consequential, because this is the first time we've seen a plate race happen to close out the regular season. Here it is. It's your Coca-Cola Move of the race. It's that last lap where the inside had the best spot. It was Bob Bryant by about a half a car length. Cattell a little bit lagged back on help, and a charging Bobby Zelensky from a car lengths back. Let's listen in as it unfolds.
Come on, Cattell! Come on, man! Come on, Cattell! Come on!
Come on, baby! Come on, baby! We're in the playoffs!
Woo! Yeah, baby! I'm taking everyone to Disney World! I'm taking her to Disney World! Yeah, baby! Thank you, man! Yeah!
I don't know, Steve, something tells me they had fun with that one.
Yeah, it sounded like a lot of excitement. That just shows you the time, the energy, the passion these drivers all put in to be great at their craft. That's what makes these races even more exciting, to see that much excitement hearing, from those guys coming to the line. Well, there it is. We were waiting to see the official points. Jimmy Mullis, enough points, fills out the bracket.
We thought Ray Alfala may have been the driver on the bubble. He holds strong. So does Ryan Luza. And it is Jimmy Mullis with a great run and taking advantage of Logan Clampett's misfortunes to go from 9th to 8th and steal that final transfer spot. Those are the 8 drivers who will go racing starting in a couple of weeks' time when we go to the Charlotte Motor Speedway ROVAL. That's the first one up. And that's probably the biggest wild card, because then we'll go to Kansas, then we'll go to Texas. Not that those races aren't going to be exciting, Steve. I know Texas will be crunching numbers. We may already have drivers locked in to the championship for when we get that far, but certainly at Kansas and Texas, I think a little bit more realistic idea based on 16 races that we've had already this year. What kind of speed is my car going to have? The ROVAL's the big one. Can anybody beat Bobby Zelensky? Zelensky's probably feeling pretty comfortable. If he gets that win, he's smooth sailing. And of course, with that being the last road course race of the year, very consequential for those road drivers who feel like they can pick up a lot of points there.
Yeah, and I really think anyone in the playoffs needs to be thinking must win. I know it isn't a must win, but your mentality needs to be that these playoff drivers are the best 8. That's why they're in the playoffs. And you're going to have to assume they're going to sweep the 3 races. So that only leaves 1 position at Miami on a points. So you have to think must win at the ROVAL, Kansas, and Texas.
Well, we will return in 2 weeks' time for the opening round of the postseason. But until then, that's it for us here tonight for the virtual Talladega Superspeedway. Round number 16 falls into our rear view mirror. As we do at the end of every broadcast, I want to thank the entire team downstairs for making everything happen, from the team over at iRacing, NASCAR, and for the crew downstairs. That is Tim Terry, James Pike, Doug Hunt, Nicolette Goslin, Tim Burns, Alex Horn, Jay Kennedy, Sean Ambrose, Malik Streeter, Michael Watson, our technical director, Mr. Cisco Scaramuza, our producer Drew Adamson, for Justin Prince on pit road, for Steve Letard in the booth alongside myself, Evan Pasoko. I want to thank you for tuning in and congratulate a first-time Coke Series winner in Brandon Hayes-Cattell. We're back for the start of the playoffs in 2 weeks' time. It is on Tuesday, October the 13th, from the Charlotte Motor Speedway ROVAL. That race and every race of the 2020 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series can be found right here on the iRacing Esports Network and streaming live at eNASCAR.com. Until next time, good night from Talladega. We have made our field of the playoff 8.